All right, perfect. So in the last 2 hours, we've gone from the metaverse through data silos and into the new world of video capture and production. So it's quite a journey. With me now is Malik Chahed from Novartis Oncology. And we're going to take a bit of a middle road towards talking about the personality and personalization in what we now are experiencing in terms of the new normal. So Malik, how are you doing, and how have the last 18 months been for you? What has been the biggest challenges that you've had to face in that time period? And then we'll talk about where we go from here.
Thanks a lot, Mark, and very happy to be here. Well, I'm doing great. Well, on a personal level, I transitioned from Europe to the US in the middle of a pandemic. So that was, of course, personally a big change, but more focus on what does that mean in terms of digital strategy as a omnichannel director here at Novartis. Well, the first I think probably for everyone was around COVID, right? COVID changed a lot of things, and in that sense, we needed to be the access for our customers was less. So we had to really reinvent ourselves a bit, reinventing the capabilities, reinventing the infrastructure, and of course the engagement model with our customer to make sure that at the end our patients were receiving the right drugs. And to do so, well, we had to do some data first, right? How can we gather more data to be able to be more relevant in terms of engagement? And focusing on data would also mean what do you think in terms of infrastructure? How do you tag the right assets, and what kind of how do you refine the content based on the data you're getting? And of course, we've all been in this journey of omnichannel, from multi-channel to omnichannel for the past few years, but the past 18 months has dramatically increased that. The second point is probably the conversion of IT and marketing strategy, right? As I was saying, the need of infrastructure to really realize the plans was there, and that was a key drivers for Novartis. Also because our internal customer changed as well in terms of behaviors. Clearly, the access was not there, and we can clearly see that the overall face-to-face model where we were mainly rep-centered has a change, and in some of the market probably for good. And we can really see some differences from one region to another. But if you look at countries like Japan, we can see that probably it will not go back to the past normal. The last point is probably increased competition, right? In a way, we are all trying to serve best our patients, and that means as well that the overall digital engagement with physician was increased. And to solve that, we needed to be more relevant and to have speed in terms of execution. Things that we had at least 1 year to use and to deploy, now we needed to do it in a few months, if not a few weeks. And of course, that added some agility, and sometimes we tried some new model with some agile team in the pharma industry, which was pretty new for us. And that increased communication means that we needed to be more relevant, to have more meaningful interactions, and probably also some new type of measurements overall for our digital engagements.
And so that was 18 months, and all hands on deck. And now, are you able to look forward to 2022 and a new set of challenges, or are we still in firefighting mode? How do you see that next evolution from next year and into the near future?
Great question, Mark. Well, without revealing any industrial secrets on the Novartis side, I think we're not anymore in the rushing mode. First of all, looking back on 2019, 2020, and 21, there was also a time, to rush, and then a time to pause. A time to pause as well, because there is a digital fatigue. And we have to rethink a bit the engagement model. And we have to think what our customer really wants instead of what do we want to tell them. And that seems obvious, right? Of course, everyone would say, oh, but of course I've been doing that. Well, not so much, right? We've all been as well in push-pull mode. And in that sense, we want to personalize the customer engagement. From the website engagement to the relationship between the reps and the physician, the digital fatigue was there, and Novartis, as well as other companies in the middle of the pandemic, decided to slow down as well the face-to-face visit and to make sure that when we are engaging with them, it's really meaningful and serve the patient needs. That means as well that, when you were doing so your campaign email, send it to 70,000 HCPs, mass mailing. Well, now we have another issue, right? Because first of all, we are not sure the customer is really opening it or if it's her secretary. And in that sense, even the rep triggered email that were personalized, a one-to-one discussion, we are in competition with so many now, including at brand and account level. It's something to take into consideration. I work with hematologists, and for hematology, just in my franchise, we have 5 brands for the same customers. And in that sense, of course, we tend to have this view per brand and thinking of the touchpoint journey. And we also need to think at franchise level, what does that mean and how do we do that at country and local level? The second point is probably, okay, but what do we do with this changing environment? I was talking about measurements before. One of the key questions for me, it's probably what do we do with the Apple privacy setting, right? Where we won't be able to have open rates. So when I was talking before about meaningful engagement, of course, the click-through rate is still there, and we need to be smart on the way we are creating those. But that's perhaps something that we are thinking about as well in the future. Personalized customer experience, for me, it's also going in the direction of behavioral segmentation and attitudinal segmentation, making sure that we answer the right questions for the doctors. That if they have, and making sure that we address as well the right message to make sure that the patients that deserve to have the right drugs will get it because we conveyed the right argument at the right moment. Of course, doing that in a virtual environment is a change, and that goes with optimizing the automation of the segmentation. So, of course, using tool and integration between your CRM system, your websites, your emailing system, and the field force to create more insights, as well as automated touchpoint journeys, is probably something that we are deploying in 2022. And for us, it's the first step. It's not only to go into the, if I may say, the Star Wars scenario where everything is fully automated without any humans, but starting small scale with those segments where we ask as well the feedback of our field force to try also to add a layer of data in 2x2 metrics to then fuel to the decision engine. And in that sense, for us, it's a good segue to go to that next generation of engagement that we are building, once again, to try to serve better the patient. And last point is this is not easy to implement. We are an industry where we are highly regulated, and we used to be very process driven. And in that sense, we need to rethink as well our view on processes, capability, and teams. And even teams, and it's probably the same in many other markets, right? We used to have a field force of 300 associates for some of the lines, and some of those are, as the doctors are not willing to see face-to-face visit or the famous corridor flow that we used to have, right, where you were waiting in the waiting room for the doctor to have 5 minutes to discuss with him and give him your brochure. Some of the doctors are not willing to do it. Plus, is it also the right thing to do? If, especially during COVID, asking one of your rep to wait in a doctor's room, that's a big question. And in that sense, we are also creating some hybrid roles where the reps would also engage virtually directly with the doctors using emails and using video. And that's part also of the new engaging model where we want to refine the content on a more frequent basis. and also doing that much faster compared to before, where you used to have 2 campaigns. We want to have 12 campaigns, and we want to refine the campaign based on the data, etc., etc.
And so how do you handle, just a segue question, how do you handle the internal strategic or marketing teams? There's a lot of new knowledge that has to be brought to the bear, not only the teams on the front end, on the front line, but also just being able to handle these various nuances of different kinds of programs across multiple channels with different data sets that might be generated. It's a real challenge to keep everybody moving forward. And I think that was underscored in our earlier session today with Dirk and Uri, who commented on the same approach. So how do you see that aspect of the internal teams developing into next year?
The first aspect is probably the personnel, right? Some associates were ready enough to also make the transition, from field force to those hybrid roles. You probably also need to think as well of your hiring plan to make sure that you have enough capability to recruit the people and train them. So, of course, in terms of capability building, you need to have a plan in place and deal with the rest of the organization, including at top level, right? Including at top management level, everyone needs to have a clear vision on how do you want to deploy that. And in essence, for me, it's also making sure that it's very clear for everyone to what is the process to go from the big concepts of personalization to the granularity of how do I measure in my dashboard and where do I find this information. And for this, you will need translators. You will need people who understand what it's about. You will need doers. You will need also strategists at every step of the organization. That could be within the marketing team. That could be as well within your business excellence and operation and digital team.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And so now this masterclass is about personalization. This session, discussion of both personalization and personality. So how do we go deeper in terms of the personalization approach as we look towards the various challenges in coming forward in the next year?
$1 million question, right, Mark? In essence, as I was saying before, for me, it's about first, getting the data and then create some segmentation. Then you will go into the more advanced thinking where you would get some modular content and you would get as well some content that will help you to drive more engagement. So first step is segmentation. So you need to create your adoption ladder for your message adoption ladder, right? To see if the message is resonating. Let's say you have a customer that for now is still prescribing all the drugs because he's very comfortable with that, but he's missing an opportunity on some patients where he could increase both the quality of life and the overall survival. Well, you need to create as well a plan in terms of engagement. And to do so, you need to create your segmentation and making sure that you will address the right message to the right customer. To do so, once you've done that, right, it's a critical step. Once you have those message adoptions, you need to have the right content, right? Attractive content is key. Content is king, as we say. And in that sense, as I was saying before, it's a much more competitive world as well. So your content needs to be spot on, and that's where the attitudinal segmentation for me comes in. Are you more science-driven? Are you more patient-driven? Are you more recommendation-driven? And with that, you could, of course, present the right material that will resonate and offer as well the chance for the customer to select what he wants, right? Within this ecosystem. Standing above the crowd is super important, and as well the content that is we used to do webcast of 40 minutes. Is it still relevant for our customer in the TikTok and Instagram world? Well, that's a big question mark as well. You need to have snackable content where within a 30-second, you could raise the awareness. And if they want to know more, well, they can click and go there and maybe download something for later when they have the time. And that's a big part. As I was saying, the personalization for me is also the sequencing of the content as well as the sequencing of the message. And that's something where, of course, your data and analytics will play a big role, as well as build through behaviors that you can capture with your first-party data for your websites and your emailing campaign. And that's where the richer data point, and as I was saying, you could also use your field force to try to merge both to create a unique personal journey.
Interesting. And so if we move forward then and take a look at the model around that segmentation. So fundamentally then, you're saying start with a plan. Start with a clean sheet of paper, understand the adoption model, and then create the modular content story around it that serves that plan. Obviously, that is a hypothesis that would then go through some form of evolution over the next couple of years as you gather more data and reveal more insights.
Of course, and as you were saying, right, there is probably for me a US and ex-US model where ex-US you can have non-personal promotion at HCP level, so you can use your Medscape and know exactly that you targeted Dr. Benthin, where it's not really possible ex-US. And in that sense, that's why we can create those touchpoint journey and plan for it. And then once you get that, and it doesn't mean that you will have 100% of new content for each of the segment, but the sequence will change and the channel will change. And in that sense, that will create something very personalized. In the near future, you will be able to mix and to have some decision engine of what is the next best action. And of course, that's a deeper level of engagement. But you need as well to fine tune with if this then that model to make sure that you can test and you can learn from those models to refine your campaign on frequent basis. So that's what we are trying to do, what we are trying to do here. And of course, we will learn along the way, right? It's a learning journey where you don't need to go full scope at the beginning, but planning is dramatically important. And when I say planning, it means as well that the way you create your content will be extremely important, meaning that you might need to validate all possible combination first, and then trying to deploy and do that with your digital asset management.
So how do we bring the field force back into it? Are we relegated to only a face-to-face or a remote meeting mode where it's a synchronous kind of communication, or are there other ways that the field force can help to bring the story to the physician for the right segment at the right time?
Field force and field associates are the face of your company in a way for the doctor, right? Those are the people that they see on frequent basis where they build the trust. I see them as orchestrators, where they will be able to engage in a better manner with your customer, either face-to-face or virtual. And in that orchestration, you can really see the deeper level of engagement. I have in mind that the personalized, when we're talking about personalization, right? As I was saying before, they were the personalization of your company in a way at doctor level, and so bringing them into the channel mix with video mails where they would record a message specifically for this doctor, sending it through rep triggered email is also a smart way of putting back the rep at this level and then feeding him with the right insights, right? Where you would combine this video from the rep with that webcast that is very convenient for the doctor, and then you get something really specific where you see it's not only an email that you sent, it's something prepared with care that is for me, Dr. Chahed, where I can see, oh, okay, I have this new webcast for my product, and my rep that I know for the past 15 years is explaining me how to watch this video and what else would I have. And of course, with the new models, and all the studies from McKinsey, BCG are also showing that the video consumption is increasing dramatically. And as I was saying before, either on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, the consumption and the way we take the content, it's not anymore reading. You read through, but if you have an attractive content with someone you know, you would tend to click more. So for me, that's also a good segue on how do we integrate the field force within the mix. Plus, of course, making them the real integrator of your ecosystem. So if you think about your 6 months plan of content, you need to make sure that at key moments of the year, it could be your congress, it could be your event from your company, you're making sure that you equip your field force with the right message and the right material to synergize to the maximum all of your campaign. And I have in mind your banners, your website, your email campaign, your social media, because those will be great tool as well for him to enter the discussion with a doctor, knowing that this specific doctor, of course, you won't have HCP level data, but overall, you can trust that with the wealth of things that you have deployed, you will have a deeper level of engagement while you are going face-to-face with that specific doctor.
So it sounds like a simple future with modular content in umpteen different segments across multiple channels, where it's being combined in ways that are perhaps slightly different from one physician type versus another, and trying to make sense of the data that's generating. So it seems like an exciting time to be part of the industry and its evolution as we move towards this sort of next best model of the new normal, would you say?
Exactly, Mark. And we are in the innovation business in what we do in digital in pharma, where of course we have to be on the edge of the new cutting edge technology. And of course the channel mix is evolving, right? And we have to stay on top of things to understand what are the new trends, and understanding as well, how can I be more meaningful with my interaction, and how can I maximize my assets, right? If you think about your marketing mix and the cost of some of your of your channels, the reps are one of the most efficient one, but also costly. And in that sense, how do you maximize this impact? Well, for me, and we are doing some of the pilots in some markets to try to see, is this moving the needle? We have a more meaningful interactions if we ask the rep to engage more with videos within emails and try to use this tactic compared to the usual rep triggered email, where we had some success in the past, but of course, the past success doesn't mean that you will have future success. So we have to continue to be on this cutting edge of understanding our customer needs and answering it with the technology, meaning, and ethic.
And do you think that the organizations and the industries have fully adopted this notion of fail fast, be able to execute at some level a certain campaign with certain segments, but doing so in order to learn, but what you learn might not be what you expected at the beginning? Have we approached the point where we can accept that notion of failing quickly and then moving forward as is represented in other industries, or are we still too conservative in our choices in order to be able to move quickly?
The answer is not black or white in essence. I think we are getting there. It's more okay now to try, and of course fail, but fail fast. In essence, to have this this security that if you fail, you won't get fired, nor you won't get your promotion. If this is not on the table, where if you are okay to try new things, but measure and not try to cheat on the measurements, right? Oh, it worked well, right? If it's but also doing that at scale, right? Can you try in multiple countries and see if that's working? I think we are getting there in Novartis, and it's also part of the cultural change where for management, we are also encouraged to ask people to try and to be bold on their choices, right? Always having in mind, why are we doing that? And the answer of why are we doing that, it's not making more revenue. It's also making sure that the right patient is getting the right drug. But failing, it's never easy. Also on a personal level, right? You need to be able to accept that you fail. Because the change starts with you, right? And in that sense, it's never easy and require your own change. I think some of the new internal organization model where we are having a part of agile model and Scrum is also helping a bit. But it's okay to try new things, and some channels will work, some will not, some you will learn every time. And for example, some of the websites that we were having some doubts, and so now we are trying to change a bit the engagement model. The video calls were for a long time a challenge as well, and now we are also trying to change and to find new ways to engage. Now we are trying those video messaging and others, and we'll see about the engagement, how that works. But it's not there yet completely. And I think, of course, we are an industry where, as the end outcome is patient life, we tend to be more conservative, and that's fair.
So something that we said just as a parting thought at the beginning of this session and about this masterclass was about personalization. So fundamentally, through everything that you've mentioned around segmentation and being able to bring the right content to the right customer at the right time, really assumes that personalization is one of the core methods to be able to improve the customer experience. So what are your parting words for, as you look forward, not just to next year, but beyond that, regarding customer experience and that need for personalization, and also our ability to deliver on it?
Now is the time. In essence, now is the time, right? If we don't manage to do it now with all the positive element that all the, let's say, the challenges that we faced led to dramatical change that should help us to do the necessary changes in the organization, as well as investment. And in that sense, we are getting there. Both the advanced analytic capability in many companies, the fact that you're hiring data scientists and others, will help us to get closer to that next level of personalization. My message to my peers as well in the pharma industry is you don't need yet to have this this very large level of personalization yet. You can start smaller with the rep level. You can start with behavioral and attitudinal segmentation, and then you can fuel all of that into your decision engine once you will be able and have the infrastructure to do so.
Sounds great. Thank you very much for stopping by, Malik, and thanks for the insight. And we look forward to the next several months.
Thanks a lot, Mark. Have a good day.
Thank you. All right, this brings to an end today's version of the Masterclass. Stay tuned for tomorrow as we have a keynote session with David Karen and several other topics, another 3 sessions and panels looking at omnichannel solutions, as well as the data approach and how to build an omnichannel system that can help guide your solutions going forward. Thank you very much for participating, and we'll see you tomorrow.